30th, 2008. I was out on a leisure ride on my motorcycle. It was the first spring day we had in Branson, Missouri. And I just decided to take a ride. The Ozark Mountains are they're not like mountains, but they're really hilly. They call them mountains, but there's a lot of sharp curves and a lot of places, blind spots as you're riding around. And so I was just out on a leisure ride one day, and I was going like 30 miles an hour around a 30-mile-an-hour curve. And I noticed a truck coming toward me head on, and he swerved to miss me. But when he did, he was hauling bales of hay, and when he swerved, the bales of hay came off, and I hit one of the bales, and it caused me to go off a pretty steep embankment, kind of a cliff side there in the Ozarks, and I lost control of my motorcycle, and I hit a tree and was ejected from a bike, probably about 25 yards down a steep embankment there in the Ozark Mountains, out in the middle of nowhere. I went head over, and I tried to brace myself my fall with my left hand, and when I did, it snapped my finger in my left hand. And the Ozark Mountains are very unforgiving, and it's pretty much all rocks, why they call it table rock. And I landed on a pretty solid ground, and I pretty much broke every major bone in most of my body, both legs, both arms, back, ribs, collarbone, and I crushed my left leg, and my right arm was completely broken so bad to the point where it was at like a 90-degree angle. And so I could not move at all from my neck down. I can turn my head, but I couldn't move the rest of my body. And I knew I was out in the middle of nowhere where I couldn't be found, and I couldn't get my cell phone out to call for help. So I just laid there, and I was bleeding pretty heavily internally, and my body was going into shock. And I knew I just, said a quick prayer and said, okay, Lord, this is my destiny, and I've met it. I'm ready to go on to heaven, because I'm not going to survive this. And probably about, I don't think it was a few seconds after that, elderly lady knelt down beside me, who was wearing dark rimmed glasses and had white hair down to her shoulders, and was in a 60s style dress. And she just appeared out of nowhere and knelt down next to my side. And she didn't speak any English words to me. We just kind of spoke. I don't know how I guess you just know inside your soul. She kind of let me know that I'm here to help you. And she stayed there for about maybe no more than 30 seconds. And then there was some gentlemen coming down the side of the hill. And I looked to my right, and I could see these gentlemen coming down the hill. And when they came down the hill, they seen how bad I was, and then she disappeared. So I mean, she was gone, and they called 911. And after that, I was transferred to the hospital. I made it to the hospital about 8 hours later, because it's so far away from a trauma center. So it took them quite a bit of time to find an ambulance who could transfer me to Springfield, Missouri. But after I got to the hospital, they had x-rayed my body, and I had pretty much broken my back really bad, both arms, my leg, ribs, collarbone, and I was scheduled for major surgeries. And that week after surgery, I was low about 4 pints of blood. So I can see clearly on the other side of the veil in my hospital room, there were beings in there, there were people in there. And when I closed my eyes, I couldn't see them, but when I open my eyes, I can see them. I'm not talking about the hospital staff. I'm seeing people who are on the other side. Some people were good and some people were bad. And the longer I stayed in the hospital, and the months it took me to time to recover, after about 6 months, I started realizing who was that person who knelt down beside me. And it took me about 6 months, because I spent the next 6 months in a body cast and recovering from the intense pain and everything I was going through. But after I thought about it for a while, I thought, well, Lord, who was that lady And then it hit me who she was. When I was 10 years old in Long Beach, California, there was an elderly lady down the street from us in 1966 who had a little thing for the kids in the neighborhood. She called the Good News Bible Club. So we go over her house once a week, and she would teach us children book stories out of the Bible. And she would give us, like these little marshmallow treats and stuff. And after I thought about it, and then I told my sister about it. I asked my sister to describe that lady, and she described her. And then I told her, I said that was the lady who knelt down beside me after my crash. So she was there like immediately after my crash. Yeah, just somebody to comfort me and somebody to greet you if you're going to cross over to the other side, because no one really knows the hour of your death. Only God himself knows, but they always have somebody standing by just in case. And in this case, it was her, because if it would have been my grandmother, then I probably would have went in severe shock, because it had to be somebody you know and trusted, but somebody you didn't know right away. So I took it at that, and 14 years goes by, and I'm looking at this picture in my hospital room, and I never noticed this at all. And somebody else on a near-death experience seen the picture, and they said, "Did you see the face that's laying in your that's appearing in your hospital gown on your shoulder?" And I said, "No, let me look at it again." So I looked at it, and I showed it to all my family, and we all agreed that it looked like Grandma did when she was younger. And then so I said, "Well, my grandmother was in that hospital room with me the whole time, because I was lifeless. My body was 4 pints full of blood, and I was fighting for my life, and I was seeing over to the spirits on the other side anyway. But I didn't realize that she was there, but she was laying next to me the whole time. And if I thought about it, I said, well, my grandmother was alive and she would have seen me in that condition. She certainly would have been a nervous wreck, and she would have been in that hospital room, and she wouldn't have left my side. None of her grandchildren. So I believe that's who that image of that face was. And then somebody pointed out there was an elderly man standing next to her. And I looked at the image again, and you can see the shape of a man. So I thought about my granddad, her husband, and he was the type of man who was a very strong man. He didn't never have a lot of emotions and stuff, but he certainly would have been there next to her, and stayed with her until she thought that she can leave. And then I noticed to the left side of my picture, there appeared to be a young girl, maybe looks like she was 5 years old, and it would have been over my right shoulder. And I don't have a clue who she was, but my little brother passed away at 5 months old, and I often feel his spirit all the time with me. And I often ask why he left as a baby, but we don't know these things. But I have a spiritual gift where I can feel clean spirits and dirty spirits out there. It's just something I was born with. I don't ask for it. It's just something that God gave me. And I have a gift of prophetic dreams where I see things before they happen sometimes. Several things that have happened here recently, but all the things that's going on in the world, I know what's really God has shown me, but I don't sell it. I don't preach it. I don't stand on the corner saying you need to know that. It's just kind of a gift. It's like if you're drawing a piece of art, you draw it, and if it looks good, somebody says, hey, that's great, but I don't go around trying to make money or anything like that on it. I got away from the church after all this happened, because I realized the religions in the world are not the answer. I do believe in Jesus Christ. I have my faith is in the Lord above. That was a lady who taught me that when I was 10 years old. But I don't believe in organized religion, and I don't believe in the 55,000 religions of the world are going to take you anywhere. And I think you have to experience that for yourself until you experience what it feels like to be dying or to have died, and then be allowed to come back and share your story. You can't stand up in a church and preach to somebody who have never done that. Say God's going to do this for you, God's going to do that for you. Yeah, you have to experience it for yourself. I didn't ask for that. I often ask. I had miraculous healing from it. Now I still have, my legs are still crooked from my crash. I'm walking without pain. My back was so bad at one time after my crash that I wanted to take my life. And I told my wife at the time, she divorced me over this, by the way. I told her at the time to leave my gun in the bedroom and I was going to end my life because the pain. I'm a strong man. I'm a retired law enforcement officer. I'm a soldier, but the pain was to the point where pain pills wasn't working. And so I was begging God either to take me home or to relieve me of this pain. And so I went down to Texas and to a Andrew Womack prayer meeting one time, and there was he asked if anybody needed healing. So I went down there to the podium, and this elderly man put his hand on my back, and his hand went down. I didn't tell him where the pain was automatically, and I felt this intense heat in my back. And the next day, I literally threw the pain pills away. And I went to the doctor, and the doctor took an X-ray, and he said my back had appeared to have healed nicely, was his words. And so, I mean, I still got the scars, and my legs are crooked, but I'm not in pain. I can walk for miles. I don't tempt. I don't try to lift things heavy. I was in pain I was in a body cast for 6 months and a wheel for 2 years. I couldn't walk. My legs were so bad. They wanted me to go multiple surgeries, but I refused. And my orthopedic surgeons all told, I had 5 of them. They all told me if I didn't get more surgeries, that I would never walk again. But I refused to believe that. I'm a man of faith. And so my ex-wife was so irritated with me, she divorced me over it. She said, you know, you're going to be in a wheelchair all your life if you don't. So she took my insurance money and ran off. And, well, I was still in a wheelchair. I was determined to get up on my legs and walk again. You have to fight. God will bring you through that, but he expects us to still fight, And so that's just my nature. But my dreams, my prophetic dreams continued on after that. They come in symbolic dreams. I've been taken up to the spirit a few times, and I've been being able to see a place where I can guarantee you I didn't want to come back from. I mean, it was like, I don't want to go back into this world because this place was, I can't even remember how beautiful it was. All I know is that when I woke, I was on like floating on the bed. It's just like, I didn't want to get up. I refused to move. I was like, we got to go back here because this place is awesome. There is a place for God's people that's new, but there's also a place for the evil people, those who want to hurt children, the evil souls, those people who live and laugh to hurt other people. And they belong in a place that you and I don't belong to. And I was allowed to see that place. And if they say, well, I can go what we call hell, I wouldn't even call it hell because I ran a jail for 25 years. And inside that wall, that jail, were several different types of people. There wasn't all evil people. There were some people who were in jail by driving drunk, or there were some people who did petty thefts. There were some good people who just got caught up, they messed with drugs or whatever. But then there was a place for real evil people, the child molesters, the murderers, the rapists, the gangsters. This place for the drug dealers, these places, they're all behind the bars. They're all behind the jail, but there's a section. So when I was in the hospital, I was seeing these people walking in front of my hospital bed, and they were all white, and they were wearing dingy hospital gowns, and they looked like they were walking on Mars or something, some background that was very desolate. And I closed my eyes and I couldn't see them. And some people would look at me with real mean faces, and some of them would look at me like, "What are you looking at?" And I was seeing these, and I'm asking God, "Who are these people? Who are these people? They're not really evil." And the Lord put in my heart that these people are people who lived a long time in this world, 80, 90, 100 years, and they never learned how to love nobody. They just love themselves. And they're walking and they're getting right now what their souls were. But then I've seen beautiful people. I've seen people whose souls are so bright. They're just, I got to meet one of my guardian angels who was just somebody I knew has always been around, but I got to meet one of them, and he was I was taken up into this big, white, beautiful barn, and it looked like a bar stools that were like maybe 5 foot high. And when I walked in there, somebody big bumped into me, and I turned around and I was up to about his sternum. And I looked up, and it's this beautiful man, about 7 foot, 7'2" tall, and he was wearing all white, had sandy hair. And he said, "Did I scare you?" And I go, "No, you don't scare me. I'm not scared of nobody." So he picks me up by the shoulder and he sets me up on a stool. So he says, "That's good. I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to help you. I'm one of your guardian angels. I'm here to help you through this life." So that was one experience. And then the other one was being caught up in, the most beautiful place in the world. But my accident happened. I don't know if my heart stopped or not. I do know my body was lifeless. I can tell you that they had to give me 4 pints of blood. And with all the pain medication, I could see clearly to the other side. It was there. I didn't see anybody I knew, but I now know that my grandmother and my grandpa was there. I don't know who the little girl was. I couldn't tell you. We didn't lose. I lost my baby brother at 5 months old. But when people give these stories, as long as they're not trying, I believe anybody's near-death experience, as long as they're not trying to sell it and make a huge profit off of it, or saying, "Look, read my story for this book for $49.95." Now, I don't like that. When God gives you a gift, and he allowed me to survive, to share my story with other people, to give them hope, that your loved ones have crossed over already. They're more alive than we are. Like that old Indian saying says, to live is to sleep, and to die is to awaken. But I do know that my pain was more than I could bear. It wasn't until I surrendered it to God 6 months later that pain disappeared. And I was able to get up and walk and function. As legs as crooked as a politician, but I'm still able to function. And I'm so thankful for that, because I know that I wouldn't be here if God was done with me, because that other side is where you want to go. And the new earth, and your loved ones are over there, and they're enjoying what we can't enjoy here on this earth because of the ugliness and the darkness that invades this world right now. And the love that people need to learn to love one another, regardless of who you are, and regardless of your skin color or where you're from or whatever. They can't put that judgment on nobody. You have to know that you're here and they're here, and you're all in the same boat together in the world. But this world is invaded by dark souls, for those who they love, and they want to live a life that's evil, and they want to hurt you, and they want to hurt me, and they want to kill us. But if you just hang on for just a little bit more, the Lord himself is going to cleanse this world of all that. And we got a new world coming, and God left me alive to tell that. We're going through, I've been there. I've been married 5 times and divorced 4 of them. I've been on the ground begging for God to take my life. I've been poor. I've been hurt. My body from top to head to my toes has been in pain. I'm a diabetic. I'm a type 1 diabetic. I still have to take insulin and all this stuff. But on top of that, God is good, man. He's good. I didn't have what those people, a lot of people, I know people who have. I didn't have one of those white light tunnel things or anything like that. And I didn't see the Lord Jesus Christ. I didn't see nobody except my Sunday school teacher. She's the only one I've seen. But the out-of-body experience I had was, I was like, somebody came in the room and took me by the hand, and I was like taken up out the window or went somewhere. And all I know is I didn't want to come back. This place was so, I mean, it make Emerald City look ugly. It was so beautiful. Can't describe it. You can't describe it in earthly terms, because we don't know these colors. We don't know this sound. We don't know this music. And I've heard other people describe the same thing. One of my best friends in Branson, he's the MC at Rico J at the Motown Hot Hits Theater. He had a similar experience where he overdosed on crack cocaine and all. When he was in the ambulance, he said he could see himself above the ambulance looking down at his lifeless body. And so a lot of people have that, but I didn't. I was able just to see right across the veil. I was able to see the people who were already over there. I mean, it's like this real thin veil between us and them. You don't go nowhere. There's people who have passed away who don't even know they passed away. They're wandering around. They don't have no. They're trying to do things in their house. I've seen that happen in my hometown of Long Beach, California, in a bed and breakfast there. There was a middle-aged woman who had passed, and I seen her inside. She was inside the linen closet trying to make up the beds in the place, you know. So I prayed over the place. I prayed over, and I told her, I said, you just need to go toward the light because you're in limbo here. And I don't even think she realized that she had passed away, but she didn't want to leave that house. So there are spirits who don't want to leave. There's like, I got finish this before I go to wherever I got to go. Then there's other spirits that said, "Nah, man, I'm out of here, man. I don't like this place. I just went to the other side." And but then there's probably dark spirits who realize, hey, you know, I messed up. And God showed me that place for those evil people, and it's like this big black square, and they can't get out. It's not fire. It's not hellfire and all that. It's a place where Jesus said they're a place of weeping and gnashing of teeth. And these evil beings were just there because they're evil and they couldn't get out. Only God can get them out of there if he does it all. But I believe they were possessed by these evil spirits, and they want to hurt people, and they want to kill babies, and they want to eat babies, and they want cannibalism. These are the evil of the, they make the evil people look even more. And they were in this little black square, and I can hear them. They wasn't talking. They were just going, they were making these grinding, like their teeth sound like, oh, like wanted to say help. They couldn't say help me. They were just moaning. And I thought, that's sad. Nobody should be there. And all you got to do to avoid going there is just open up your heart to the light of Christ, that love, that agape love that we don't understand. It's a love that forgives you a million times over for your shortcomings. It's a love that God says, look, I created you, but I want to love you, and I want to love you because you're my child. And it don't matter who you are or what part of the country you come from. I just want to love you. And if you just open that up and let me love you first, and I will give to you everything, you know, that your heart's desired, you know, that will, of course, is in line with his word. But if you want to do evil, you better know that there's a place for you that's not going to be, you think you're going to be down there dancing with the devil and partying and shaking hands with all your buddies. No, I would not gamble with my soul. And I wouldn't gamble with those who don't believe in the afterlife, because they're going to have to experience. And I was at the park the other day, and there was a big stand up, and the guy said, come here, be an atheist like us. You can do anything you want to do. And I wanted to go over there, but the Lord put in my heart to just leave them alone. You're not going to convince them. You have to leave them alone, because they're going to have to find out for themselves. And so that's the saddest thing, is for a man or a woman to walk in the world and go, I don't need no God. I don't need nothing. You don't need religion. Get rid of religion. Religion is bad. It's bad. It's man-made. But you do need our Father in heaven, who's the creator of all things. And his son's already paid that ultimate price for us, you know. So I would just open up to that and just let God be the one to change your life. He kept me alive after that accident for a reason. I lost my wife. She left me in a wheelchair. I thought she was a Christian woman. She left me in a wheelchair, and she took most of my money I got from settlement, and she married some guy in Georgia. The doctors took the rest of the money, and the lawyers took the rest of the money. So after I got a huge, about $500,000 settlement, I ended up with about $100,000 left after they cleaned me out. But it's not the money. He spared my life, and I went through, I'm going to say this word, I went through hell getting out of the wheelchair and learning to walk again. And I still fight some things why I still don't have certain, but what I do have is that relationship with the creator of all heaven and earth in my imperfections. If you're an imperfect man, then all you need is that one who is perfect, because in his eyes, you are perfect. Your imperfections are perfect in his eyes, because you're his son, you're his daughter, and you're a princess or you're a prince, and you belong to him. And whatever wrong you do in life, nobody can accuse you of that, because he's going to look down and say, I know what he's doing or she's doing, but that's my child. It's just like if your child's running around the house causing trouble. Nobody on the outside going to come in the house and tell you how to correct that child. You can correct that child. So If your child gets dirty, you take that child in, you bathe them, and you feed them, and you nurse them, and you teach them. If they go out and get dirty again, you want to do the same thing. And that's the same thing we are with God. We go out and we get dirty. He takes us in and fills us with light and cleanses us. And we keep doing the same thing, making the same mistakes over and over. Because I can't get a calculator to add up all my mistakes, because I can't. And keeping your tongue from talking hate and knocking down people, regardless, even if they're with their backgrounds or whatever. Let God be the one to judge. Let him be the one to discipline, and help your brother and help your sister whenever you get a chance, because this life is short and there is a new world coming that scripture teaches us, where the lion shall lay with the lamb. But we're here to learn a lesson. That lesson is you've got to graduate to this next level to go to that next level. We're in element. We're not even out in elementary school. We're still in kindergarten, if that, or preschool. Well, there's my message to people is, look, I'm not in this for any kind of profit. I'm not looking for nobody to send me money. I don't want nobody's money. My message is if you're going to go through a hard time, we all going through those hard times. Everybody's going to go through trials. It strengthens you. And if it kills you, look, the Lord's waiting for you. He knows. God knows everything. He knows everything you're going through. If you're laying on the bed and you're dying and the doctors can't help you, nothing. I lost my neighbor the other day like that. And I mean, it's like, I'm ready to go, Ron. She told me. And so look, if you're going to cross over into a world that is beyond what you ever imagined. And your loved ones are going to be there waiting for you. And your loved ones you leave behind are going to join you soon enough. And there's going to come a day here real soon, and I believe we're right at the door, where God's just going to poof down that light on everybody. And if you're living in a dark world, dark soul, you're not going to be able to survive it. Because you remember that you can't look upon the holy God like that unless you allow him to let that light come into you. So it's like going to a dark closet. You turn on an LED light. There's no place for that darkness to go. That light's in there. That's what's going to happen to the world. There's no place for that darkness to go but back into the pits of hell. God knows what we're going through. If you're going through a hard time, I've been there. I've done it. I've been flat on my floor, naked, begging God to take my life. My body was lifeless. I've been there. I see the other side. But there's a reason why God keeps you alive. You're going to go through suffering. You're going to go through pain. It's not okay. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. But he won't put more on you than you can handle. It's right. Like my back when it was healed. I come to the point, I said, Lord, that's it. Close the door. Give me my gun. I'm going to put an end to this pain once and for all. I can't go another day like this. And that's when the Lord stepped in and completely healed my back, where I was literally off pain medication the next day. And I mean, that's what he wants. When you surrender it all to the living God, he has that power to deliver you from that affliction. And there's, like he told Paul, Paul said, I don't want this. He said, well, my grace is sufficient for you. He wanted to know what that thorn was. Okay, my back is healed, but my legs are still crippled. I got scars on my arm. I can't use my right arm very good, but I'm a musician. I can still play the guitar. I can't bowl or play golf, but I don't care. You see, because God left enough there, left the scars on me, left the scars on me that people can see what I've been through. And if you look at that picture of me, you go, how did you make it through that? Because God wasn't ready to take me home yet. That's how I made it through that. And it was pure, horrible pain for the next 6 months. And I don't wish that on nobody. I don't want nobody to have to go through that. But my message to people is, you're going to make it. One way or the other, you're going to make it. Keep fighting until you can't fight no more, and then God will take the rest. He loves you. There's a new world coming. You're going to be very pleased when it does come.